Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I'm Paul Dottino, he's Matt Citak, and as always, we come to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Our phone number is 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513, hashtag Giants Chat on Twitter if you prefer. And, of course, we're also on the app and on the Giants YouTube channel. As always, if you're not watching the show live, catch us on the archive and the entire Giants podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, at giants.com/podcasts. So yesterday, following a very eventful afternoon here at the Giants training camp facility, in which new head coach John Harbaugh was introduced to the media, John and I did a full 1 hour of Big Blue Kickoff Live, and we kind of gave you a really, I think, a pretty good recap of everything that was said and all the different things that we learned. We also gave you our opinions. Matt rejoins the show today for the first time, so I'm curious as to maybe your top 3 takeaways from what you saw and heard yesterday. Perhaps they are even a little different than what we said.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what you guys said. I'm assuming you probably touched on these.
They might be, but they might not be.
First and foremost, John Harbaugh is just absolute love for football and basically said that if you don't love football, you don't have a place in this building from top to bottom. That stood out to me first and foremost. That was my favorite part of the whole press conference. He reiterated they want guys that love football, that have a burning passion for the game in this building. And that goes for players, coaching staff, front office, top to bottom, even on the other side of the building, it seemed like he was referring to. So that's, the quote he said, that's what we're going to be doing football all the time, every day. I love that quote the most. And, obviously New York Football Giants are a football team. That it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise. And that's not saying that any of the other previous head coaches we've had over the last decade did not love football, because they all did, for sure. But just hearing John Harbaugh speak about this yesterday, I'm sure it got you fired up as well, but I was so fired up, and it was just such a breath of fresh air. I think, to have someone that's so experienced, to have the track record of success that he has now, leading the ship, hopefully leading the ship back into the right direction where it was, during the glory days of Tom Coughlin. It was just, I loved every single second of it. I mean, since I started working here, prior to working here, I started in 2019.
Okay.
Prior to working here, my friends used to make fun of me that I was just the perennial optimist when it came to the Giants. Every year, doesn't matter how the season before went, I went into the season being like, this is our year. We're making the playoffs. We're making a run to the Super Bowl. Every year. Didn't matter.
Every year. So
I went into the next season being like, we have a chance at the Super Bowl this year. We're going to get it. We're going to be a playoff team. We're going to make a run to the Super Bowl. This was every year, basically my whole life. My friends made fun of me so much for this.
So as a child, you never met Charlie?
No, I did not meet Charlie as a child.
You would have been traumatized.
Yeah, probably. Then I started working here, and obviously, other than 2022, it's been some dark seasons, and that goes even beyond just 2019. But that optimist in me I sort of veered away from those optimistic thoughts. Obviously, it's tough when you're, picking top 5, top 6 every single year. It's tough to go into the next season thinking, you know what, we're going to make the playoffs this year. I feel that optimism again for the first time in a long time with John Harbaugh leading this team. So
that's take one?
That's take one.
Okay.
I'll try to be a little quicker with takes 2 and 3.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Take 2, and this is part of what we heard from John and then part of what we heard from Joe. The last week, I feel like it's been the biggest topic of conversation is, who has final say, who has the power. It is very, very clear that the two plan on working collaboratively. Probably not so different from what Joe and Brian Dable did for the 3.5 years that they spent together. It is going to continue to be a collaborative process. It does not seem like it's going to be, a fight for who really gets the absolute final say, because it sounds like they're going to try to do everything as a team. It goes for the coaching staff working with the front office and vice versa. So I know that's obviously been one of the biggest topics, of conversation surrounding the Giants hiring John Harbaugh over the last week. It just, from what they both said and from what ownership said, it really does not sound like that is going to be an issue whatsoever.
Okay. That's two.
Okay. Take 3, which wasn't even really from Coach. He did get asked a question about one of these guys, but Joe provided somewhat the first real updates we've heard on Malik Neighbors and Cam Scadaboo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, they both spoke the day after the season ended. Scadaboo was a lot more optimistic about his timeline than Malik was when speaking to the media, but Joe confirmed yesterday that Scadaboo is on track to be ready not only for training camp, but for the offseason workout program, which starts the beginning of April. He said that by all accounts, it seems like Scat is going to be ready for that. That kind of matches up with what Scat himself said, although Scat wouldn't definitively say, Joe didn't definitively say anything, but Scat said the hope was to be ready for the offseason workout program, but definitely training camp. Joe made it sound like a little bit more optimistic that he will, in fact, be ready for the start of the offseason workout program.
You and I both know Scadaboo. He wanted to play the second half of that Eagles game on a broken ankle.
Oh, 100%.
So I got to be real careful when he
run out there week
schedules.
18, probably.
Exactly.
But even he, when he was talking to the media the day after the season ended, wouldn't say, I will be back for the offseason workout program. He said, I hope to be.
Right.
Joe sounded, granted that was almost 3 weeks ago at this point, but Joe did sound just a little more optimistic that he will, in fact, be ready. And even perhaps more importantly, Malik. Because when Malik last spoke the day after the season ended, he did not sound too optimistic about being ready for the start of training camp. He kept on saying, we're going to have to see. I'm not rushing myself. Like, when my knee is healthy and ready to go, I'll be out there.
Did you feel he wasn't? I thought he was just intentionally vague. I don't know if that meant he wasn't optimistic. I just think he was trying to be very, very vague.
I personally, when I was there listening to him speak, did not think, this is him saying I'm not going to be ready for training camp. But I just saw some of the beat reporters kind of turn that into, Malik saying he might not be ready. Like,
well, that's them.
No, yes, that is them. But they're the ones that speak to the fan base and who the fans read a lot of the time. So
okay, fair enough.
It just, from that meeting with the media a couple weeks ago, it sounded like Malik was not too optimistic. Joe yesterday, again, nothing definitively. It's only January 21st. A lot can change, but he said, as of now, the hope and the plan is for Malik to be ready for the start of training camp towards the end of July. He said things could change.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that happen in previous years where guys that were supposed to be ready for the start of camp, the rehab ended up taking a little bit longer. They were not ready for the start of camp, but as of January 20th, Joe Schoen said that the hope, and he's trending in the direction that Malik will be out there for the start of training camp. And I think if he is able to be there for the start of training camp, day one, that will be huge because as we all know, he played about a quarter and a half with Jackson Dart, and that was it. And they didn't get, they had some reps during training camp last year together, but Jackson was the backup quarterback. Malik obviously was playing with the starters. They didn't get too many reps throughout the summer either. So the more reps and practice time they can just get throwing and catching with each other, the better. So if he can be out there for day one at camp or even towards the start of camp, I'm not even going to have to say necessarily day one, but the more time they can play on the field together this summer, the better it'll be obviously come week one, because we hope to have the full allotment of playmakers at Jackson's disposal. Malik, Scat, Tracy, Theo Johnson. We'll see. We don't know about Wan'Dale Robinson yet, but obviously Slayton. Yes, obviously, we want the offense needs to have as many pieces around Jackson as possible to help him take the next big step in year two. So if Malik and Scat are both out there for the start of training camp, hopefully that is a sign of good things to come.
Yeah, for sure. Did you talk to his parents?
I did not get a chance to talk to his parents. I wanted to talk to Jack because he seems just like a character.
Awesome.
He seems like just like an awesome football guy. I mean,
love him.
Every single Harbaugh seems like an awesome football guy. Let me make that clear. John, Jack, Jim, I haven't got a chance to meet Jim. I've only seen him in the media and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They all just seem like fantastic football guys.
Yeah.
Guys you want to just sit down and just talk ball with for hours.
Jack being the patriarch, I really get the sense and the feeling that they are as close as you could possibly be. It's the whole Belichick and his dad was the guy who influenced him to be a football guy from the very moment he was born. And you get that impression when you talk to Jack. You could tell he's a football lifer, and his two boys were absolutely going to be football lifers as well. And thrilled to talk to him. I will tell you, it is clear also where both Harbaughs got the affection for a running game from. That came from Dad. Dad is all about making sure that you can pound the ball and be physical in the running game, and everything comes off of the running game. And boy, that's music to my ears. You guys know that.
And somewhat connected to that, I don't remember who tweeted this yesterday, but several of the reporters spoke with Jack after John's press conference, and he said to at least one of them.
No, he said it to me, and a couple of
you?
people were within earshot, and they stole what he said to me and posted it on Twitter about the offensive line.
Yes. That
I particularly asked him about that.
Jack himself has recommended to John to keep Carm Brasillo as the offensive line coach.
Jokingly, but he was half joking because he was spouting his affection for the Giants' offensive line. And I told the story yesterday on the show.
Okay. So
I went up to him particularly
to
ask him because John had referred to the fact that his dad had watched tape of the New York Football Giants and stressed the offensive line. So I went up to Jack and I asked him about it specifically. I wanted him to expand on it. And as he was talking to me, I just said to him, well, the Giants' offensive line hadn't been so great in recent years, and then this year they really turned it around. I said, that offensive line coach, if anyone's looking for recommendations, and he goes, I kind of already told him about that guy already.
So that should be music to Giants fans' ears, because I know that's, of all the assistant coaches, position coaches, that seems to be the number one priority, at least in terms of our fan base, in retaining. And as was become abundantly clear during John's press conference yesterday, he listens to his dad. I'm not gonna say 100% of the time, but when his dad says something, recommends something, suggests something, he is very, very open to it.
So
probably more so than anybody else.
I don't think
this
there's
planet.
any doubt. He's getting direction.
And hopefully
again,
that means
Jack was half joking with me, but when you listen to him affectionately talk about the Giants' offensive line, as I did for about 5 minutes before I asked him that question, you kind of got the impression there was probably a little bit more to it than that. Who knows how that's going to turn out? But yes, a couple of reporters were in earshot, and of course they stole that.
And I've just seen some of them have some reports on it, which you guys can check out yourselves on Twitter.
Yeah, there's no sense.
But we'll find out the entire coaching staff soon enough.
It is what it is.
John did mention that coordinator interviews would start today.
Yes.
We don't have any word on what that entails exactly, but those are starting today. So hopefully sooner rather than later, this staff gets filled out and we're ready to roll for 2026.
We have no news as of now. Just so you know, folks.
As of now, no news.
We have no news as of now. And we don't know, by the way, it has usually been Giants' policy whenever they had changes in coaches not to announce the assistants until after the full assistant staff was in place.
See, that I feel like has depended on the coach. Since I've been here, at least, I've been here for for Joe Judge. I was here for going into year 2 of Shermer, so that wasn't a coaching change. But then Judge, and then obviously Brian Dable, and now John Harbaugh. It's been up to each coach. I know with Joe Judge, he wanted to wait until the entire staff was filled. Every single.
So did Dable.
Did he? I think, at the very least, I think we announced coordinators first.
Possibly.
And then
but
maybe
rest
the
of
position
staff
coaches.
was all at once, because there was a release with like 8 names or whatever it was.
Yeah,
all of a sudden
I do remember the coordinators we announced first.
That's possible.
Which, obviously, it makes the most sense to lock the big positions of the coaching staff down first and then get to the next.
Besides, all that stuff gets out there with the agents anyway. It's like, you're going to hear about the names at some point, folks. But
we just won't be able to officially talk about it.
We'll be able to talk about it when they tell us we can talk about it. All right. Hey, this is the deal. We've now done enough of our rehashing. We've given you now yesterday's show and the first 10 minutes or so. Actually, that wasn't even longer, almost 20 minutes of today. Now it's all you guys, all right? Here's what I want to do. Our phone bank is full. I think it's important to hear from you guys. So I want to make these calls as quick as possible. We're going to go rapid fire, all right? Give me whatever it is that you want to say. Let's get it out of the way. And if we need to answer you real quickly, we'll do it after your phone call, all right? Because we want to get rapid fire here. A lot of folks, I'm sure, want to chime in on this. 201-939-4513. And we go first up to Arnold in Buffalo. You're first on BBKL. Hello.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Paulie.
What's going on?
How's it going?
So I wanted to say first that I really like the way you guys give out the news, because according to everybody else, Joe Shane stinks. You know what I mean? You guys give out the news good. Now, if Joe Shane was a bad guy, I don't think Harbaugh will be here. I think Joe's a good guy. I think, I called before and I was like, oh, we got to get a quarterback. I told you, Paulie, I know you wouldn't trade, but I asked, I forgot who I asked, would they trade? And they said no, they wouldn't. Joe got a first-round draft pick and a quarterback. Now he got Harbaugh in here. I think this guy is doing a good job.
Appreciate the phone call.
And then let me say one more thing.
Okay, Arnold.
The narrative on Dart is wrong, because I mean, sometimes he does go a little bit too far, but that is not enough to give up on Dart or say he's crazy. I'll take the rest off air. Talk to you later tonight, Paulie.
All right, my man. Thank you so much for the call.
Arnold.
First of all, thank you for the comments. And truthfully, we just stick to facts here. We're not interested in storylines. We're not interested in narratives. We simply stick to facts. And if you listen to John Harbaugh at all, you don't even have to listen to us. If you listen to John Harbaugh's press conference, and not to mention Chris Mara, but let's stick it to John. He was very clear that while the quarterback, Jackson Dart, was a very big part, no question, a big part of his affection and decision to make this his top priority, he also mentioned a lot of other aspects that he really liked about the Giants organization and about their roster. And so to your comment, my friend Arnold, yes, if Joe Shane was the disaster that some people have painted him out to be, that would have made the job less attractive.
Yeah, look, again, as Paul said, we don't need to stand up here and give you our opinions on this. All I'm going to do is point to word for word what John Harbaugh himself said yesterday. And we posted the entire transcript up on Giants.com, so you guys can see word for word exactly what came out of his mouth. But to all those stories and reports and people's opinions about Joe and Jackson, and ones that are, put them, both of them, either of them in, let's just say, not the greatest of lights, all I'll say is John Harbaugh was the number one coaching candidate to hit the market this offseason. Right up there with Mike Tomlin, I would say, but it doesn't sound like Tomlin's going to coach this year. So in terms of coaches for this upcoming season, John Harbaugh is number one. And he chose to come to the New York Giants, and he chose to come here to work with Joe and to coach Jackson as his quarterback. So if the number one coaching prospect out there, who has obviously a ton of success, his resume is very, very impressive. If that guy signs off with working with Joe and coaching Jackson, what else do you need to hear?
I'm going to go one further. His father, who is his mentor and his guiding light, told him, it's the New York Football Giants. They better be on the top of your list. Jack Harbaugh, who has spent a life in this game, do you honestly think that if he didn't think well of this situation or well of Joe Shane, that he would have advised his son to make the Giants the number one on his list?
Yeah.
Would you do that to your future son?
No,
you
my
wouldn't.
dad wouldn't do that to me.
That's right. So come on, folks. I mean, let's just get real. These are facts.
Yeah, don't take our word for it. Go read what John himself said, or go listen to the video.
We go to line 2. Jack in Binghamton is next on the program. Hello.
Hey, good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering, I hope you guys are doing good. Just speaking of guys that love football, what do you guys think about drafting a guy like Caleb Downs at 5? I know everybody's talking about drafting another wideout, and we already have Holland and Newbin, but I don't know. It seems like drafting Downs would be pretty similar to drafting
Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, I've heard the comparisons, and even people in Baltimore have mentioned that to me, that Downs could be the Giants' version of Kyle Hamilton. I don't rule it out.
Yeah.
I don't rule it out at all. He's a quality player. Giants are picking number 5. He clearly projects to be an impact guy. I wouldn't rule it out. Now, do I think the Giants have some other potential needs that they could address there? We always talk about this, too. Free agency comes first, Matt.
Yeah. No, 100%. And look, of course, Caleb Downs, I would say, is arguably one of the top 5 players in this draft on a pure talent basis. I would say even maybe top 3. Like, he is a phenomenal football player. As Paul mentioned, there's Tyler Newbin and Javon Holland are both under contract next year. They're both, would assume they're both going to come back. So
Belton is not.
Belton is a pending free agent. Yeah. So it's, is the 5th pick worth adding a guy? While it might be the most talented of the prospects you're looking there, but a guy to join a somewhat crowded safety group where you have 3 guys now that definitely not be able to, all be on the field all the time together. I don't know. Like, he is, from a pure talent perspective, I would say he is worth the 5th pick because he is a very talented football player. But with the other players that are, at least right now, projected to go around top 5, top 10, there are other players at other positions that, as of right now, before free agency, are more positions of need than another safety. But, of course, John Harbaugh has had a history of, having some very talented safeties on his team that have been very, very successful and turned into a phenomenal career. So, as Paul said, I certainly would not rule it out. I think it's definitely in the cards. But as of right now, I would just lean slightly more towards no, just because of the other holes there are to fill on the roster.
Anything else quickly, Roberto, before we move on?
Jack.
No, that's
Jack?
fair.
Is it Jack? It is Jack.
I know that it. All good. I guess that would be more of a rebuilding type pick, but at least it seems Harbaugh has got us his mentality seems to be a win now mentality.
It does.
I love that.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, hopefully after free agency, we get to the point where, we've said this in years past, where the Giants are just able to take the best player available, regardless of position. That's what you want to be going into the draft.
Roberto in Florida is on line 1. You are next on BBKL. Hello.
Hey, Paul.
Yes.
Let me just say this first. You look like the New York Giants ambassador in that suit in the conference when they were talking to Joe, the general manager. I love to look in the suit, and I love the way Harbaugh addressed himself to Jameis Winston in that game.
Okay.
I would assume it was Cleveland.
Yes, he did, actually. And thank you, by the way. You're very kind, and trust me, my daughter will be very happy to hear your comments because she is my fashion consultant and expert. So thank you.
You look great. But listen, this is where we got Harbaugh now, which I told you before. Remember with Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, I don't know if you ever heard it when someone asked Harbaugh if his brother Jim would coach the New York Giants. His reply was, "Are you kidding me? Who wouldn't want to coach the New York Giants?" Mm-hmm. Right? I remember that for a few years, about a year and a half back.
Mm-hmm.
Also, McFadden.
Yes.
Illuminor.
Yes.
Wendell. Right? They don't need to worry. If they need to move on, they need to move on. That's a lot of cap right there. Right? Now, remember why we went and got, what's his name, Newbin?
They drafted
Holland?
Newbin, and they signed Holland, correct?
Yeah. Which was the other guy that we got from?
They signed a Debo in the secondary. He was another big ticket item.
Yeah.
Debo. Yeah, well, these guys were interception. These guys were like interception experts, right? Like
Debo
now
was,
we got Harbaugh, man.
and so was Newbin in college.
Yep.
We got Harbaugh. Listen. This guy. I watched the press conference. This guy is like the moment you walk in the building, it's everything else is everything else. We talking about football. I'm still stuck in the idea of putting Gunner in the slot. I'm keep single. What's his name? Not Singletary. The running back, the third string.
That is Singletary. You're right.
Yeah, he can help Banks return kicks. I mean, listen, we got it going on. I need your thoughts about all these things because again, we got Harbaugh now, and we got the draft.
Roberto, I love the enthusiasm. I don't know if you've called before, but please call again.
Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you. 201-939-4513. It's amazing how spirits have been uplifted recently.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
I wonder why. Maybe getting the best coach, the best free agent coach the Giants have ever brought in the franchise history. That maybe it might be the reason.
Dan Reeves would have something to say about that. He went to 3 Super Bowls. I know he didn't win one, but he went to 3.
Yeah,
that's kind of a toss-up.
You gotta win though.
It's kind of a toss-up. All right, we go to James in Georgia. You're next on the program. Hello.
Hey, what's up, Don?
Hey, James.
Hey, James.
I've been on a cruise for the last week, so I kind of missed all the hiring news and trying to get caught up on my way back home.
Okay, John Harbaugh was signed as the head coach of the New York Giants. Does that get you caught up?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I'm there now. So I've been trying to catch up to, listen to all the interviews and the past BBKL, so I don't repeat comments from another caller. I apologize if I do. Matt, I'm like you. My optimism for winning the season is high every single year. I try not to bring it down because in the NFL you always have a chance. To go from worst to first it happens, almost every year with at least 2 to 3 teams. So why not us, The actual Harbaugh interview, I couldn't be more hyped just listening to him talk about wanting to do football 24/7. And if you're a guy that's going to lack on effort, or if you have a question of should I go run to the ball because somebody else is making a tackle, you're going to find yourself out the door. And I love Abdul Carter and his motor, but during the season, last season, I would talk to my brother, and it's just after he's taken out of the initial play, you can see him not running to clean the play up. He's just kind of standing back. This is our first-round draft pick. Clearly, he's gonna be here, but if you got a Tom Coughlin type, Bill Parcells type in the building, and John Harbaugh, that's not gonna fly for much longer. And while I love Abdul Carter, he's got a long way to go, and most of the players, I think it was maybe Chris Merrow said he's gonna demand accountability, and all these players said we want somebody who's gonna hold us accountable and be strict on us. And I think Harbaugh is the type of guy that's gonna bring the most out of the players. Even with this being them at the professional level, you would think that these guys have the internal motivation like a Brian Burns. I think Brian Burns, you could put him on any team with any coach, and his internal motivation is going to, get him to the sack number that he had this year. He's going to be able to produce. But some people, they're still young. They're still kids. They need, somebody to help bring that fire out of them, maybe. And I think it's the same way with the coaching staff, with whoever he brings in. Like, if you're thinking about, I got to make my daughter's recital during in Cowboys week, you might not be there that long.
Okay.
This is going to be all football,
Interesting way to put it.
24/7 around here now. And, I think the optimism, because I think the last couple of coaching hires, us fans have felt like we've had the consolation coach. We didn't get the guy we didn't want, but we didn't get the guy we wanted either. We kind of settled for
James,
1A or
I'm
1B.
gonna push the brakes on you right there.
That's how I
I don't think that's necessarily fair. Okay, because they really were believing in Brian Daboll. They really believed in Joe Judge. In fact, they really believed in all of the guys they hired. The last time I remember them actually having to go through a list is when Dan Reeves got here in 1993, and he goes, I don't care that I'm the third choice. I'm the last choice because I'm the guy that they hired. And that was the way that Dan looked at it. And that was the last time I truly remember the Giants having to go down their checklist. So I don't know if that point's fair, but I appreciate you calling in. I want to try to get to other callers, too. You had a whole lot of points there, which go ahead, one more. Go ahead, real quick. Oh, I think we lost him. Okay, I hope he didn't get swaddled up by a whale. Well, he said he was on a cruise.
I think he's back now. No,
Well, I hope he's safely at port. Okay, how about that? 201-939-4513. Did you just have one item maybe you wanted to pick out and say something about?
No,
he had a lot.
He had a lot. I don't even remember everything he said. So
all right. Now, and again, he was away for a week, so he's entitled to have a lot of build-up there.
Of course. No, I will just say, let's not kind of have revisionist history, because you're right that Brian Daboll was definitely one of, if not the top target in 2022 to be the Giants head coach.
I think Joe Shane made it clear
he was like the up-and-coming coordinator that was being coveted by a lot of the teams that had head coach openings. So obviously it didn't work out, but let's not, change history and say that he was like our second or third choice. I think what James might have been referring to or thinking about was the defensive coordinator search a couple of years ago, 2 years into Brian Daboll's tenure.
We've seen those things, yes.
Those reports, but Brian Daboll was certainly, if not the top choice in 2022, one of the top choices. That was not like a consolation prize situation.
All right, real quick, I want to mention the Abdul Carter thing. He was named to the Pro Football Writers Association of America all-rookie team.
Yes.
So good for Abdul Carter. He deserved it. In regards to your comment, we saw a different Abdul Carter who had a fire lit under his butt, if you will, over the last month of the season.
That is what I wanted to talk about, and I forgot. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Abdul Carter's last, let's call it 6 weeks, it was basically a tale of 2 seasons. The first 11 games and then the last 6 games. The first 11 games, what James was saying, checks out with Abdul. Obviously there was the several different disciplinary issues that was, held with the coaching staff, I'll say.
Inconsistencies is the word that I use. He was very inconsistent.
Yes. I will say, at least in terms of the off-the-field stuff, I'm pretty confident in saying with John Harbaugh leading this ship now, that's not going to fly.
No.
He is going to, whatever you got to do, you better be at every meeting you're supposed to be at every film session. Like, whatever was happening behind the scenes last year with Abdul is not, I'm pretty confident in saying it's not going to happen under John Harbaugh. But I will say the one thing, obviously he picked up his game the last month of the season, but what might have impressed me the most, and I don't know if we've actually discussed this on the show, at least not with me on air, was the clip that was now gone viral of Abdul in the locker room after that Week 18 win, where everyone was happy and celebrating, and people were there. A few players were different speaking, and Abdul, a rookie, stood up there and said, we're good to be happy. We got to win. That's great, but basically 4-13 is not where we want to be. This is not something that we should get used to. This is not somewhere where we should ever want to be again. Next year, let's make sure that we are not celebrating our 4th win in Week 18. He seemed to mature and grow. Those off the field things, I think, got to him towards the end of the season, and he realized what he needed to do in order to be a successful NFL player. And we saw it click in the last month of the season. So hopefully now with John Harbaugh, with a new defense or potentially a new defensive coaching staff, hopefully that unlocks Abdul Carter's true potential. Because let's not forget, He was 21 years old when the Giants drafted him. He turned 22 in October. He was the youngest player on the Giants, one of the youngest players in the NFL. Not using that as an excuse.
Yeah.
But sometimes it takes guys a little bit of time to really mature and realize what it takes to succeed in the NFL. And at least it seems like that last chunk of the season, it finally clicked in his head.
I don't want to let that go without a footnote. Mega credit to Mike Kafka and to Charlie Bullen
100%.
for getting Abdul Carter back on track and focused.
Yes.
All right, real quick. Special Olympics New Jersey's annual Snow Bowl is headed to Rutgers SHI Stadium in 2026. This annual flag football tournament will be on the field of Rutgers Stadium from March 6th through the 8th, coming up in another month or so. The 6-on-6 tourney will feature competitive recreational and co-ed divisions, and all proceeds benefit thousands of Special Olympics New Jersey athletes across the Garden State. Register your team today at njsnowbowl.org. That's njsnowbowl.org. Quickly, I don't want to take too much time here because we already talked about it yesterday, but I know up on the huddle, John Schmelk talked to Tom Coughlin. I don't know if there's anything else up besides that. Did Sean O'Hara's one-on-one with Harbaugh go up yet?
That will go out later today.
Okay.
This evening, Sean sat down with
stuff.
John. I guess not technically the first interview because John did a lot of interviews yesterday, but
yes, he did.
At least first one-on-one interview, with the Giants in-house media here. It's a great sit-down video. It'll be out sometime this evening. Check 5, 6 o'clock. So check back in a couple of hours for that. Yes, John's conversation with Tom Coughlin is up already. Any conversation with Tom Coughlin is worth listening to. I highly recommend that.
Absolutely.
Highly recommend that.
Get your beverage and your pretzels and chow down and listen on to Tom Coughlin.
And then just for anyone that missed all of the the hoopla yesterday,
it's all there.
All the different videos.
It's all there.
John's press conference, Joe's media scrum, Chris Mara's media scrum, all of that is up on Giants.com. So if you want to either recap or you missed it yesterday, all of those available. Giants.com, Giants app, Giants YouTube.
And by the way, I don't want to forget this either. I did get a lot of comments addressed to me about how many fans were so happy and wanted to send well wishes to John Mara. He was at the presser yesterday, as we discussed, did not speak to the media, did not go up to the podium, but he was in attendance, did take a quick picture with John Harbaugh, which of course has been posted and it's gone viral, and with just an immeasurable amount of well wishes for him in his fight against cancer. And I was touched by it myself. And I just want to say, I think I appreciate all the Giants fans who continue to support John in his battle and wish him well. And we certainly can't tell you how much we multiply those wishes here within the building. So thank you for that.
It was awesome hearing Harbaugh talk about his interactions and the respect he has for Mr. Mara. That was one of my favorite parts of yesterday, honestly.
For those of us who know John Mara as well as we do, it was emotional. I'm not going to lie to you. It was. Real quick, before we get to our other calls, because I know you guys just filled up the phone lines, YouTube, real fast. I want to get through these really, really quick because you guys took the time to do it.
Go for it.
TT or T-Tom13 says, what a beautiful day to be a Giants fan. Finally, we're out of the darkness. Joe Scalzo 4960 says, isn't the Ravens fullback up to be a free agent? That would be Picard.
Yes, he is a free agent.
He is. We will see. Who knows? But he certainly is a part of a power run game.
Yes.
That is true. Ryan Runny says Ricard would be dynamite. Imagine him blocking for Scat. Nobody could stop them.
No argument here.
He's a big man. Josh Soul 357. Scoop Huntley is a free agent, and I won't be surprised if he is quarterback number 2. I would be because Winston is under contract.
Jameis Winston is under contract, and barring something very unforeseen, he will be the backup to Jackson Dart next year.
And I got the impression that John Harbaugh has a good feeling and impression of Jameis Winston. I think we could get that yesterday.
There seems to be a lot of mutual respect between those two.
There
now,
does.
QB3 on the roster is still to be determined.
That is true. Collusion D4N. That's an interesting name. So happy we got John Harbaugh. First time in a long time. I have hope going forward. Not expecting an awful lot next year. Well, he does, so why shouldn't you? But I think in a year or two, the Giants can be a serious team again for once.
Hey, there were 3 teams that went worst to first this year.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we be one of them next year?
Scotty Young, 1669. I think Malik Neighbors was just a little bummed out in that interview due to a terrible season. Okay, I understand that. Everybody was. Breesley 59. Malik Neighbors walking with a cane made me nervous. Again, we're not doctors. Let's just let it play out. 73 Atman 86. I'm from Jersey and always preferred Jets, hated Giants, but after watching the recent football in Jersey, I'm kind of happy for you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take it. P. Carlson 21-4. I think Harbaugh was a good signing, but it will all come out as to whether the chemistry is right or not. Could go either way. Look, it's true, right? When Tom Coughlin got here the first year, team was under 500. He had a lot of adjusting to do, and so did the players. And then in year 2, they won double digits and went to the playoffs. So who knows? Who knows?
That goes for any coach or front office hiring, any player signing or drafted. Like, everything could look great on paper. Obviously, as we know, this is a results business. You gotta win games. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what the chemistry is like. If you don't win, then it doesn't matter.
Jason in New Haven, you're next on BBKL. Hello.
Hey, Paul and Matt, how you guys doing?
Good.
Well,
How are you,
you?
Jason?
Good. No complaints after the hiring of Harbaugh. We talked about it last week, so I'm glad it came to fruition. So just a few bullet points because I know I got to get off the air. The whole Shane and Harbaugh who answers to, I think it's just a ridiculous kind of talk to even talk about. It's always going to be the head coach's, whatever the head coach wants his identity of the team to be, the GM is going to go to the grocery store and try to get those ingredients. So who reports to who and who answers to who and who goes to the owner, I think a lot of that is just people for some reason still have this thing that they want Shane fired, which I think is utterly ridiculous. So I think those two will work fine. And it's in the best interest of everybody and the fans and the general manager and the ownership that those two work well together. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
Jason, if I may respond real fast, and I'm going to make it quick. John and I spoke yesterday that the important part of this is that the system works. And if the system is working correctly, they won't have much trouble with their collaboration.
Absolutely.
And really, that's the overwhelming point here. People are getting lost inside the middle of the forest when they bring this up as a negative.
Absolutely, John. I mean, absolutely, Paul. You're 100% correct. So I'll leave that topic alone. I just think the whole thing is just ridiculous, and it doesn't need to be even spoken of anymore, in my opinion. But what I wanted to talk about real quick, what we've seen in every playoff run every year with every team, two things: O-line, D-line. O-line, D-line. Protect your guy and harass their guy. So here's what I want to say. I'm not asking you guys to, because I know the draft, we're kind of getting into the draft season and free agency, but here's what I want to talk about. While we have Dart, it's important to me. This is just my opinion. While we have Dart, we need to capitalize on his cheap rookie deal. So I know Illuminor is a free agent, but if we can get him, you keep him in that, you try to bring him back, right? Number 5 pick, I don't know how that goes. I like the big tackle from Miami. If he has some flexibility to play guard, build these trenches up. Make it so that Dart feels comfortable in whatever system the new OC is going to run. Bring Ricard in. Let's make this a smash mouth run game and get another D tackle. That is how we win playoff games. That's how we're going to be in the conversation. When I'm talking to you guys at the end of this year, I would like for the conversation, instead of being the 5th round pick, who's the 5th overall pick, who's going to be this, who's going to come in, who's getting fired. I want to be one of those final 8 teams or 4 teams. And how we get that is controlling the line. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll take your answers off here. Thank you.
Jason, I have no problem at all with what you said. If you know anything about me, you know that you and I are pretty much on the same ball right there, same ball of wax. I will say this. It's certainly a lot easier to talk about best player available when you're picking at the end of the first round.
For sure.
The whole need thing doesn't really take much priority anymore.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, you'd like to be picking at the end of each round every year. That would be something that I think we would welcome here more often than it has happened the last few years.
Is it, I believe, Philippe in Albany is on line 1, or is it Philip? I'm not sure. Hello?
It's Felipe.
Hey, Felipe. Good to talk to you. Hey, Felipe Sparks, right? No, I know it's not you, but okay. How you doing?
Good, thank you. I just want to say that I'm a little mixed about John Harbaugh coming to the Giants.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a season ticket holder. However, I've gotten to almost every single one, at least one game every year since 2001. I probably missed by maybe 3-4 years, including COVID. And this year, because I actually moved up to Albany, so I wasn't able to go down. And, the ticket prices, my daughter also she's 4 years old, and she's been to 2 games.
Cool.
And we went to my daughter. She's 4 years old, and I took her to 2 games already. She's been to the Giants training camp last year with me. And, I tell you, the ticket prices in the past 4 or 5 years have been so cheap because of the record. And now I'm afraid that next year I won't be able to afford it. So it's, a little, I'm worried about that.
Well, we have nothing to do with that. But and quite frankly, we don't have anything to do with the roster either. But I'm glad that you're able to get your daughter to some games, and I'm sure you had fun times.
Yeah.
I hope they won those
did.
games so that she could smile and laugh and jump up and down, too.
Last year, we got the tickets for the Colts game, and they were like $10. And we were able to go down to the first section, and that's when they scored 40-something points.
They crushed the Colts that day.
Yeah, that was a good game. You can't beat that.
Good stuff.
But I wanted to say that unfortunate for Brian Dable and everyone before him, but the stars did line up this year because if it wasn't for situations or decisions, we wouldn't be able to have John Harbaugh in this year. So that's fantastic. And regarding, to kind of piggyback on the previous caller regarding the quote unquote power struggle, I don't see it as a power struggle. I mean, John Harbaugh is not a coach just to coach. He wants to win. He's here. He only won 1 Super Bowl and had a very successful career so far. And he wants to win at least 1 more, if not, 2, 3, 4. So he's very serious. He wants to make sure he has ownership's ear, not only just, hey, what's, this has happened and that happened. He wants to be held accountable. He wants to be, hey, instead of going to Joe Shane, saying, hey, what happened here? He wants to go straight to the owners. And I admire that. It's accountability, and it's him being serious and wanting to make sure that he has the ear. And, listen, Joe Shane can learn some things from him, and Joe Shane needs for this to be successful too. Sure. Because he needs to make sure that they both work together, that he learns, because John Harbaugh's been here for a lot longer time than Joe Shane, and they have to work together, and I think they will.
Indeed.
That's pretty much.
Thank you. Appreciate the phone call. In short, everybody in this building, from top to bottom, is absolutely starving to win again. And that's the number one motivator if you're going to have any type of collaboration.
For sure.
Todd in Pennsylvania, you're next. Hello.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you today?
Very good, sir. How are you?
Doing very well. First of all, I just want to say continued prayers to Mr. Mara and his family. The Maras have meant everything to the New York Football Giants as well as to the NFL, obviously going back to 1925. And
no doubt.
He's just seems like a wonderful man, and continued prayers to him. And I want to say, Paulie, I met you years ago up in Albany at the training camp. We used to be up there. I used to live up near that area. And you were a gentleman. We had talked very briefly, but you were very, very kind to me, and just want to say I appreciate that.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for the words.
Of course. My question is, I called yesterday regarding the offensive line, what direction they can go. I have a question about the defensive line, and depending on what defensive coordinator they bring in next year. Now we have these studs on the outside. Obviously, we have Burns, we have Carter, he's going to excite me. I think he's going to be a great player. Thibodeau for at least another year, and hopefully we get the best out of him, and hopefully we keep him. But my question is the down lineman besides Dexter Lawrence. Obviously, we have Darius Alexander that they took last year in the 3rd round.
Yep.
I think he's going to be a very good player. I hope. I think there's a need, kind of piggybacking off what Jason said earlier, the previous caller, about the defensive line as well. I know he touched on the offensive line as well. But you have guys like, Roy Robinson-Harris and Chauncey Golston, who didn't really play much last year due to injury, I believe.
Yes.
You got a guy like Chapman, who's kind of got a great motor, but an undersized guy. Do you think the new defensive coordinator, whoever that may be, would probably keep a 3-4 system? I would just imagine. Do you think that's going to be a priority this offseason to bring in some guys next to Dexter and kind of build those trenches as you and I both agree on? I think we both love that, both sides of the ball. Build the team inside to out. That's my question. Whoever the next defensive coordinator is, do you think the organization prioritizes those down linemen? And, I'll take the call off the air. And, as always, go Big Blue.
Thank you.
Thank you for the call. So it's a little tough to say without knowing who the defensive coordinator is going to be, because they, someone could come in to lead the defense and want to change up the whole system, the whole scheme, turn it on its head. So it's a little tough to say, but as of right now, these are the down linemen that are under contract going into 2026. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence. There's Darius Alexander. Chauncey Golston is still under contract. Roy Robertson Harris. I believe that is it.
I believe so as well. I think Davidson's deal is up.
Yes, Davidson is heading towards free agency.
And Nacho, I believe, is up too.
Nacho, I believe, is also up. We did sign to a reserve future deal Marlon Tuipuloto.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yeah, I'm surprised about that one. So could they add another guy to play next to Dexter? Of course, I wouldn't be surprised. I think probably my guess is they want to see what they have in Darius Alexander, who showed some flashes of being a good pass rushing complement to Dexter Lawrence this past season in limited action. Roy Robertson Harris is a veteran that's been around for a long time. He's a solid guy. He's not going to, I don't expect him to put up all pro numbers, but he's just a solid, consistent guy in the middle. Chauncey Golston, I feel like we didn't really get a chance to see what he has in this defense, surrounded by the talent the Giants have up front because of his various injuries that he dealt with all season.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like I got the opinion that it didn't feel like they kind of knew where exactly was the best place to play him this season.
Let me add something to your Golston comment. I had said all during the offseason last year when they brought him in that he is a guy in the Justin Tuck mold. He's a run-stopping defensive end who sets the edge, can get you some pass rush, but can also slide inside to 3 technique. We never saw him really do that.
Yep.
So I made an inquiry near the end of the season because he had gotten hurt and missed a lot of time. And I did ask somebody, what was the schematic plan for him? Because I feel it was like a wasted season for Chauncey Golston. And wouldn't you know, they laid it out for me. He was supposed to be a defensive end who was going to move inside and play 3 technique defensive tackle. They had big-time plans for him. They did not want to make him part of that edge combination, which he wound up seeing a lot of rotation as an edge. Mm-hmm. That wasn't really the plan. Okay, they truly wanted to make him a 2-position defensive lineman. That was the plan. And because he was hurt early on over the summer, and he never got a chance to fully work himself into the multiple roles that they wanted to, it became a lost cause. And as a result, he was way behind the 8 ball, so then they just said, okay, let's get him on the field wherever we can, whenever possible. And he never fully had a defined role. And that's why Golston's season became rather quiet, to be frank with you. I was incredibly disappointed with his production, but there was a reason for that. And I'm not surprised because I really knew how he should be used, and it turns out that was the plan. They just couldn't execute it. Now it's going to be interesting to see whoever the new DC is, how they decide to fit Golston into their plan. I thought that was important to mention to you.
Yeah, no, I think that'll be very interesting. But just to answer your question, Todd, I do think someone will be added to the interior defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will it be a, significant assets put towards that person? I don't know. It could be, we could be talking about like a mid-round draft pick, more of a developmental guy, a veteran in free agency, that's not a break the bank type of signing. I don't expect, my personal opinion, I don't think that they'll, the big free agent signing will be a defensive tackle or the 5th pick. I mean, I think I don't even know if there's anyone that right now is being projected. I think the one guy is from Clemson,
Peter Woods,
who is projected somewhere in the top 10 to 15.
He's
I don't know about top
6'3".
5.
That's probably a tad high, but he's in somewhat in the neighborhood of the top 10. He's 6'3", 315. Now, the question, I know John sees him more as a 3 technique, and I understand that, but he's very active. He penetrates a lot.
Yeah, he's very good.
If you can add some bulk to him, if you can play him at 325 maybe, he could maybe be more of that hold the fort guy. Maybe he doesn't have to be a quickness guy. You know, by the way, we love Mason Graham. Did you see his last month of the season? He came on strong.
He did.
You know, he was really good the last month of the year.
But anyway,
sure.
So we have, again, there's those 4 interior defensive linemen. I'm including Golston in that group,
right,
that are under contract going into next year. And let's not forget, Abdul Carter lined up on the inside at times last past year.
There's a lot you can do with him.
With Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Abdul, like, in order to get all 3 on the field, one of them is going to have to be not on the edge every single snap if the 3 of them are going to be on the field together. So it's just a lot of guys already that are going to be in the mix for, there's only so many snaps you can get on the inside, with Dexter also playing a significant portion of the snap. So as of right now, the way the roster is constructed, I don't see significant assets being put towards another guy in the middle, but certainly there will be a guy or 2 added to the mix. I do think, of course.
The rush defense hasn't been good enough to leave it alone.
100%. And, you know, again, Nacho is a free agent.
Yeah.
So you're going to need someone to fill that role.
We got time for one more call, and then I quickly want to go through our YouTube comments. Joey in California, you're last on the show.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Hi.
Good. How are you?
I'm, for the first time in a while, I'm a little optimistic about this.
Okay.
I really like this John Harbaugh hiring because, you know, I like an experienced head coach, especially one with John Harbaugh's resume. So I felt like that's kind of the thing the Giants have not really gone for the last few times they hired a head coach. I mean, Dable was okay, and I understand, you know, there were some things that didn't work out, but, you know, I'm very optimistic about Harbaugh coming in. So that's one thing. But now the question begs, who's going to be the, coordinators? Specifically for me, I'm wondering who the best choice is for defensive coordinator, since our defense, we kind of
underachieved is the word. Underachieved.
Yes. Like I said, I was trying to be a little optimistic about it. So
just be factual.
I mean,
that's all you got to do. Just state the facts. Underachieved.
Okay, yeah. So who do you guys think would be a good defensive coordinator for this team? I'm kind of leaning toward Raheem Morris, but I don't know. You know, I know he's done a defensive coordinator job before, but I don't know if he's looking for that. So.
Well, he is in the running.
We'll let you go, and then we'll comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the call, Joey. Raheem Morris is in the mix for at least one of the still vacant head coach openings.
Yeah.
I want to say Arizona. I'm not sure exactly. I think it's at the Cardinals, but I'm not positive. So clearly, he's still gunning for a head coaching job. If he doesn't get it, I'm sure he will then turn to the defensive coordinator positions that are available. And I saw this morning he has like very, very close ties to 3 different coaches that are now with new teams that need a defensive coordinator, none of which are the Giants. Not saying that means it's impossible for John Harbaugh to call him, but he has very close ties to 3 other of the defensive coordinator openings. So I would think there's a better chance that he goes to one of those coaches that he has close ties with already than one that has no real ties and connections to in John Harbaugh. In terms of who the Giants might get, who's to say? I mean, I would assume Charlie Bullen will get a look because I think he did a very good job when he took over. There are other names that have been floating around as just guys that have worked with John Harbaugh in the past with the Ravens. Who was the defensive coordinator this past season? Zach Orr. Basically, anyone on the Ravens coaching staff, there's at least a chance
Harbaugh's got connections.
Is going to bring them over. I'm not saying every single one. We don't know yet. But so I would say there's probably a chance he gets a look. who's the other one? Anthony Weaver, who worked with John Harbaugh in Baltimore.
Leonard's another guy you see floating out there in terms of
these are just names that are being floated. We genuinely don't know who the plan is to interview yet. We have no idea. I would say that anyone that John Harbaugh has previous connections to, obviously, there's a chance they'll at least be in the mix for that position.
I'll do this, since I gave you the kind of head coach that I would want, and it turned out John Harbaugh fit that. But then again, he fits everybody's want list for this job. I'll say this. If I were to be in that seat and I was going to hire a new defensive coordinator for the Giants, or for that matter, retain Charlie Bolin, I'll just tell you what I would be looking for. I would want a guy who is not going to have a read and react defense. I would want him to play a lot of man coverage, a lot of press and jam. I would want a guy who's going to be very aggressive and force the offense into being on their heels. I want a guy who's going to dictate the tempo and the game flow, okay? Because I'm tired of seeing the Giants' defense be the ones that get walked all over, okay? I'd want to see them dictate. Bill Parcells used to say all the time, it's about imposing your will on the opposition. That was his phrase. He loved that phrase. I agree with that 1,000%. When you go into that game, you want to know that your defense is going to control the narrative of the game. That is imperative for me. If the new defensive coordinator or the old one, whoever it is, doesn't have the mechanics in place and the philosophy to do that, then I think you're spinning your wheels. I want a guy who wants to dictate the narrative of the game. And as part of that, I believe he's got to be able to use a lot of pre-snap confusion, because then you're telling the quarterback, you got to worry more about us than trying to remember your own plays. Yeah. That's what I want.
I'm with you. I mean, the one quality I was going to say that I would like to see in the next defensive coordinator, which you mentioned, is being aggressive, which I don't think we saw too much of that from the Giants defense this past season until the last stretch of the season when Charlie Bolin took over. I think it got better. But going into this past season, obviously the talk on the defense was the defense up front and, the big four guys up front, which outside of Brian Burns, for the most part, as a group, underperformed. But that's because I don't know if they were necessarily put in the best positions to succeed. Obviously, when you have those four guys on the field together, you expect some of the time to just rush those four and be able to win, get after the quarterback, but not every time. And it seemed like this past season they were kind of relying on those four most of the time, just those four, to get after the quarterback, and not really didn't blitz as much as I'd like to see. So I'm with you in aggressive, being not overly aggressive, but obviously that's a fine line, but someone that is not afraid to be aggressive and, as you said, sort of dictate the terms on defense.
You got to be able to diagram some very key gotta have it plays, because when you gotta have it in the most important key moments of a game, your coordinator better be able to outthink the other guy's coordinator and the other guy's quarterback, because if you don't, you're going to see what you saw again this year with blown leads. And that's just the way it is.
I mean, just the qualities that you listed, the first person that reminded me of was Brian Flores, who is obviously become one of the best defensive play callers in the entire NFL. He might get a head coaching job.
I've been influenced by Belichick and John Fox and Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, I'm just saying
you know where I'm going.
Yeah, of the current guys. You just mentioned that, and I'm like, that just sounds like Brian Flores. So.
Very fast, and I understand that. Very, very, very fast. The YouTube comments, because I know we're out of time and we have to go. Jan Bogacki, 6134, says, y'all think Scadaboo is going to be as hard as before when he comes back?
Yes. He made it very clear.
That's
the
easy.
Day after the season ended.
Ross C, 378. Paul and Matt, who would you like to see as DC and OC? We've kind of already talked about the philosophy there. T-Tom 13, going by John Harbaugh's track record, our drafting in the top 5 days are over.
Hopefully.
We're good with that.
Yep.
And 11, E. Manny. Caller made a good point. We really should finish the D-line. Got to find a guy who can be next to Dex. EV got the pass rushers and nose tackle in Dex. Need to finally fill that hole since Leonard Williams left. I told you guys, Leonard Williams was a dynamite player and a great acquisition by Dave Gettleman. So many people doubted that. Then he got here, then you started liking him, and then he left, and then you really started to love him. Leonard Williams.
He's a phenomenal football player.
Man, that guy can play ball. He could be on my team any day.
100%. The only thing I'll say is if he were still to be on the Giants, chances are Brian Burns will not be here.
Probably
just
right.
can't make it work.
Probably right.
contract-wise, So.
Yeah, contract-wise, it never would have worked out. It worked out better for everybody the way that whole situation resolved itself. Folks, that'll do it for this edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We have come to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Don't forget, we're back again every single weekday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with a live version of our 1-hour show here on Giants.com.
By the way, just while we were on air, Yankees re-signed Cody Bellinger, so congrats.
Yeah, baby! Bronx Bombers, pinstripe pride. Go Yankees. We'll see you tomorrow.